Everything moves in slow motion. Ains takes a sharp inhale as his fingertips can no longer take his weight, and he begins to fall backwards into the pit. As the realization of his fate takes hold, he hears a familiar, echoing voice deep within his mind.
Use my power!
He manages to turn in midair to face the wooden stakes. A flash of roaring flame pours out of his embered fingers, so intensely it consumes the wood and instantly turns them into ash. Ains falls to the bottom of the pit and spits as he gets a mouthful of soot. Donnie looks down in amazement from above.
Where can I get one of those?
Just give us a hand, mate. Ains stands and extends his unburned hand to the top of the pit, and is dragged out of the hole by the wizard.
Dude, that was totally gnarly. You have like a higher power watching over you.
It seems I do. The dishevelled drow makes a sigh of relief as the adrenaline leaves his system, and he realizes he is a lot more hurt than he thought he was.
Let's get back to the others.
Donnie allows Ains to prop himself against his shell. He limps his way down the corridor and is confronted by Aru.
What in the nine hells happened to you?
She slaps him on the forehead with a red glow leaching into him, healing his wounds.
Oh, that feels better.
He leans against the wall, shifting the ghoul corpse out of the way weakly with his foot. Damon strides over.
I'd hate to see the other guy.
And pulls out a healing bottle from his pack, handing it over to the rogue. Ains gives an amused smile and flicks off the cork before swallowing the contents.
Oh, okay, I feel a lot better now.
Damon listens patiently as Ains retells his ordeal.
It was the witch. This power she gave me, it's stronger than I thought. Basically saved my bacon from being impaled on a pit of spikes.
Of course this place has death traps, why wouldn't it? Damon lowers his eyes, slightly ashamed it hadn't occurred to him, before returning his full attention back to Ains. The witch's curse saved you?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think it's a curse. I think I'm supposed to do something important with it.
Ains nods in confirmation to his own words. Damon squints with concern.
I've grown up around all manner of ghastly things, and no matter how useful a curse may appear, it is still a stain on the soul.
He places a hand on the drow's shoulder.
Just be careful. The most alluring flowers are often poisonous.
Hey, maybe these powers are just what we'll need in a pinch. Ains looks up thoughtfully.
Well, we aren't getting into a pinch just standing around here,
Aru grumbles. The party makes their way through the corridor. The paladin pushes against a heavy stone door, which opens up into a large room with decorated carved walls with several recesses. The chanting seems particularly loud here. Damon inspects the room cautiously. Each niche contains a single item, almost as if it was some kind of reliquary.
I wouldn't touch anything in here if I were you.
He looks preemptively over to Blossom, who incredulously flings his arms up. Donnie waves his hands gently through the air.
I can't sense any strong magic, but it's kind of hard in this house.
Lucian repeats the gesture.
I concur. There is nothing of power here. These items are useless.
Aru boldly strides forward to investigate the displays, which seem to be body parts of various creatures crafted into weapons, jewelry, or clothing.
Quite a fine collection,
she remarks, mildly impressed.
This some kind of food storage or what?
Donnie questions, licking his lips.
Looks more like someone's fun dungeon.
Ains laughs mischievously. Whatever it is, these items seem to hold significant importance. Magical or otherwise, it's best not to disturb them. Damon announces while glaring at Blossom before walking with delicate steps to a heavy iron-barred portcullis. The view from the other side is shrouded by a waterfall, which creates a large pool, bones softly bobbing up and down within.
That chanting is definitely coming from in there. What do you see?
Ains stands next to Damon, attempting to look past the waterfall. While Damon is distracted, Blossom growls and swiftly grabs a mummified goblin hand off of its shelf and places it into his pack. And despite anyone unable to tell, he gives a satisfied smile under his mask.
The water's obscuring the view. We'll have to go in there,
Damon uncomfortably states.
Be on your guard. Looks like some kind of cage.
Ains inspects the iron bars and gives them a brief tug. They remain solidly stationed. Donnie waddles over.
Let someone with actual muscles handle this, alright, little man?
The turtle smugly pushes past and softly exhales before aggressively straining, his shaking arms grasping tight on the metal bars. But the gate remains still. Donnie lets go and takes in a deep breath.
It's probably magic.
Hey, there's a passage here.
Aru gestures to a sign clearly stating prison and an arrow pointing down the corridor. The party investigate. Another long dark hall. Aru stomps forward and notices the walls are home to shackled skeletons. They look strangely familiar. Their clothing, while ragged, look a lot like that of the adventurers and nobles from the memories. Damon takes a closer inspection. Their bones are littered with dents and scrapes as if various cutting implements were used to flay their flesh. By the Raven, I hope these poor souls were dead before this occurred.
Ha! Now we know where Elizabeth got her suit from.
Aru grunts in amusement. Damon sighs and leans down to take an even closer look. These bones are old. Over 100 years at least. He swiftly stands. How long have these sacrifices been going on? He asks himself. Deeper into the room, less familiar skeletons appear, many in common traveller's attire. At the very end, Aru finds a fresh corpse. She notices it's an orc with brown hair, wearing a rusted chain shirt.
What is this?
She stares at the corpse and realizes it looks just like her.
Is that me?
She questions to herself before calling over the others.
Hey, check this out.
Ains and Donnie rush over.
She looks just like me.
Aru points to the corpse, but it is now a skeleton dressed in somewhat similar armour to her own. You've got a little bit more meat than this fella, Ains giggles. Yeah, and a lot more angry, Donnie smiles. Aru growls and approaches Damon, who is leaning against the wall near the entrance praying under his breath.
This place is messing with me.
Damon slowly opens his eyes. My parents were warriors in the Dreadlands. They encountered all manner of mind-altering creatures. The first lesson they taught me, don't use your eyes. Use your studies.
But I need my eyes for looking at stuff.
Aru screws up her face in confusion. Donnie notices another skeleton chained at the end of the room, dressed in a dark cloak. Upon its bony finger is a gold ring, which the turtle carefully pulls off and licks. You do know it's worth more without your saliva, right? Ains remarks.
Come on now. Seen one torture chamber, you've seen them all.
Lucian impatiently sighs and taps his foot, so the party make their way back into the previous room. Aru approaches the portcullis and briefly inspects it. There's no point, I've tried, dude. It's like magically sealed or something. Donnie advises, but is immediately taken aback when Aru simply lifts the gate with ease.
What'd you say?
Aru stares at Donnie with genuine curiosity. Never mind. I probably loosened it. Donnie shrugs and walks through the waterfall into the shallow pool, casually pushing floating bones aside. Blossom, hot on his heels, regrets following Donnie as his feet become soaked in slimy brown water. Oh no! Blossom hurt wet! He quickly climbs the stairs leading to an overhang platform which surrounds the entire room. In the centre of the pool is a raised platform, which appears to be an altar. After everyone has entered the room, Aru forces the portcullis upward and it remains open. She then makes her way into the middle. As soon as her feet touch the stone platform, the chanting halts, leaving only the white noise of the small waterfall. She looks toward Damon to see what to do next. He gives her a hand gesture to say, "Stay still." The orc rolls her eyes and takes a step forward towards the altar, and shadows congeal from the floor upward. Surrounding the central platform, they begin chanting again. One must die, one must die, one must die. She clings to her axe.
Guys, what do I do?
What do you see on the altar? Donnie calls out from the pool. Aru leans over to get a better look.
There's like broken pots, rotten paper with a bird on it, and a knife wrapped in some old cloth.
She hesitantly replies. Okay, I think they want you to sacrifice a bird with a knife? Donnie suggests, panicking.
Where am I supposed to get that?
Aru growls. They want blood, Donnie remarks.
Don't we all?
Aru sighs, picking up the knife and unravelling it from its cloth, realising it is a frayed baby blanket with streaks of blood soaked into the fabric, with the initials WD on one corner.
Hey, you think this belonged to Walter?
Try burning it. Damon tosses over his lighter.
All right.
Aru trustingly agrees and ignites it. The cloth is burned to a crisp, but the shadows continue their chanting.
Great, that didn't work. Okay, who wants to die?
She aggressively raises the knife. Let me think, don't move, Damon yells over to the orc. Donnie makes his way to the other side of the pool, where he finds huge piles of bones, many with black mould growing on them. At the same time, Ain slinks around the higher platform towards Donnie. "Anything interesting?" He peers down. "Most of the bones are human, as far as I can tell." The turtle rubs his chin. "Damon, you like bones? Get over here." Damon groans. "I'm not an anthropologist. I just care about the dead." "An ampro what? Just get over here." Donnie picks up a skull. Damon carefully makes his way around the raised outer walkway to inspect the bones from afar. Yes, old human bones. He stares upward to see the light from above. "Wait a minute." He peers upward intensely. "I recognize that ceiling. It's the kitchen." "Oh, so this is like a garbage disposal." Ain shivers with disgust. Meanwhile, Blossom approaches the altar in the gap between the two shadows and notices deep within their shadowy hoods faces which look like nobles from the memory. Blossom puts his hand out for the knife and winks at Aru.
"Fair enough."
He pretends to stab himself with the knife and uses an illusion to make it look like blood is pouring from him. He falls down and plays dead. The shadows stop chanting and stare down at the blood-soaked spoon-bearer. They point their arms towards him and shout in unison,
"Deceiver, deceiver, Lorgoth the Decayer will awaken thee."
The shadows then disappear. The pile of bone begins to shift and move. The ground and water tremble. Donnie, Damon and Ains all shift away, and from underneath the bones rises a mass of rotting flesh. Its decaying stench fills the air and its thick tentacle-like arms extend forth as it begins to drag its heaving weight towards the altar. Damon examines the putrid pile and notices that it is completely made up of various human body parts, with limbs sticking out at all angles, and aloft on the mound an infant child, which peacefully sleeps entangled among the sinew. Echoes of chanting return, gleefully stating,
"Death comes, the Lord be praised."
"Shh! Be quiet!" Blossom commands, raising his fist toward the ceiling. Donnie closes his eyes and twists his claws around before thrusting them forward, into the direction of the shambling mound. The water in front of it becomes a viscous, greasy oil. That should slow him down, but not for long. Aru charges towards the edge of the oily water and whips at the foul creature, slightly cutting into its flesh. Black blood seeps from the wound, but the creature doesn't call out in pain.
"Tough guy, huh?"
Aru grins.
"I like a challenge."
Ains glides along the raised platform and slices at its flesh. "Whoever kills this wins. Deal?" Aru smiles and nods.
"Deal."
She lashes her whip again and forms a new wound. At the other side of the room, Blossom is still standing on the central platform, covered in illusionary blood. He throws a firebolt at the mass, trying his best not to hit the sleeping infant, but its flesh absorbs the blow, leaving little damage. "Uh-oh, fire no work," he calls to the others. Donnie nods. "Thanks for the heads up, little dude," as the turtle picks up one of the floating bones and pulls out a slingshot, catapulting it across the room, where it becomes embedded in the creature. Aru twists around and glares at Donnie.
"We're trying to kill it, not add to it."
With her momentarily distracted, the decaying beast lashes out with one of its tendrils and punches her square in the chest, causing her to fly backwards into the brown sludge.
"Ugh, that's a hell of a left hook."
She unsteadily attempts to get back on her feet. Blossom thinks for a moment. Fire no work. Us? And blasts forth a ray of frost. The mound shivers slightly as if it felt a cool breeze before continuing to pull itself through the thick oily water. Aru steadies herself and then charges with her great axe raised, tearing through one of its arms. It moans at her, more an inconvenience than pain. Inkly blood pours out into the water. She then backs away, holding her chest. A red glow emerges from her hand, and her ribs knit themselves back together. Damon shoots his crossbow, but the bolt barely registers. This thing is unstoppable! The creature again pulls itself forward into the center of the room, making it through Donnie's oily patch. Its huge remaining arm slams down next to Blossom, who flinches, covering his eyes. Ains jumps off the walkway and runs his blade all the way down its back. It doesn't feel pain at all! And the drow returns to his original position. Aru, now healed, rushes towards the mass once again. Her axe cuts deep this time, spraying the orc with blood. She laughs maniacally. Blossom manages to quickly move away from the center of the room, onto the upper ledge. He thinks out loud again. No fire, no ice, don't know. And launches a chaos bolt into what he believes is its head. This time the creature groans and sways slightly in disorientation, and it slams his arm down next to Donnie, missing its target in its confused state, crushing the altar instead. It looks kinda dizzy, guys. I think this is it. The turtle scoops some of his dirty water under his feet and within his claws fashions it into a shard of sharp ice, which he uses to cut the lumbering mass. Blood leaks from the flesh, but it continues to push forward. Aru bangs her axe on the stone base of the altar.
Hey, over here!
She nods towards Ains, who is stationed on the higher level. While the beast is distracted, the drow jumps down and slices his blade all the way down the decaying fiend again, now causing ichor to pour from its back. This time the creature notices the attack and attempts to crush the drow against the wall, but the dexterous rogue manages to climb above just in time. Are we actually hurting this thing? I really can't tell, yells Ains. Damon fires another bolt from the other ridge across the room into the beast. Just keep hitting it till it stops moving. The creature regains focus and shifts its hulking form around, whacking Aru in the side of the head. She falls down into the now inky puddle, and sensing its chance, the creature wraps a fleshy tentacle around her waist and quickly curls her inward. Slipping in between chunks of grey muscle, the orc begins to suffocate. Donnie, witnessing his comrade being consumed, rushes forward, screaming, holding up his quarterstaff. He furiously bats at the decaying flesh. Spit her out! He shouts, timed with each swing. Within the beast, Aru is completely surrounded and unable to breathe. She chokes, and with her final minute breath, slips into darkness. Suddenly, she awakens in a lavish bedchamber. A slim drow woman with flawless dark skin and long white hair sits at a dressing table, putting on lipstick. Within the mirror, she wickedly smiles at Aru before turning to face her.
I see you are struggling, my dear.
She patronizingly pouts.
You could say that.
Aru cautiously looks around the room, confused as to how she got here.
You are far too young to die. I find this unacceptable.
The drow carefully pushes her hair over her shoulder.
I'm happy you agree.
Aru, catching her reflection in one of the many mirrors that hang on the walls. She looks older than she used to, but she directs her attention back to the woman.
Who are you, anyway?
I am Lolth, and I seek a youthful champion to preserve the beauty of this land.
The drow again stares at herself in the mirror.
And what do I get out of this?
Demands Aru.
I shall spare you this gruesome death and offer you great power over your enemies. But of course, this requires a minor sacrifice.
The lady smiles and strokes her hair. Aru takes a moment and sighs, realizing she doesn't have much of a choice.
Do you care if I still serve the Doombringer?
The elegant woman rolls her eyes with a hint of annoyance, but forces a smile.
No, in time you shall see I am more worthy of your full devotion. Do you accept my gift?
Aru begrudgingly nods. The drow lady grins, displaying the sharp teeth that extend out of her mouth. She stands, and with 8 huge spider legs scuttles towards the paladin, before gently kissing her on the cheek. Aru's eyes open. She feels adrenaline coursing through her, and pushes against her organic prison, making more than enough room for her to grab her axe. She then ragefully begins to swing. Outside the creature, the rest of the party see the mound begin to shake and quiver, as blood pours forth in huge amounts, such so that it creates waves. Donnie briefly stares at his quarterstaff in confusion and then back to the creature, just in time to see an explosion of black inky blood spread across the room, revealing Aru screaming and continuing to slice at the remains of the creature. Donnie hesitantly puts his hand on Aru's arm, who instantly halts and glares at the blood-coated turtle. I think you got it. The paladin then whips her vision to Ains and grins.
I win.
Suddenly, there is clapping. The party turns around to see Lucian giving a round of applause as he leans against the wall in the corner of the room.
My, that was entertaining.